You open a heavily encrypted digital dossier at precisely 3 in the morning, watching red restriction seals fade into dark text as your bypass credentials register on the terminal. Your screen casts a cold blue glow across your desk as you examine orbital spreadsheets tracking a 340-meter celestial body sweeping through deep space toward our planet. For decades, traditional astronomical bulletins insisted that asteroid 99942 Apophis would be nothing more than a harmless visual phenomenon in the night sky. But as you navigate the technical appendices of speculative analysis UAP NRO 55, you realize the complete story involves an unprecedented gravitational deflection in modern physical history. Imagine a single physical object weighing 61 million metric tons passing closer to Earth's surface than our own network of geostationary communication satellites. You are staring at an orbital mechanics simulation generated for April 13, 2029, when this object will slice through the upper atmosphere at 30,000 kilometers per hour. The report indicates that the cross-gravitational pull between Earth and the asteroid will trigger localized surface quakes across Apophis itself, shifting its rotational axis in real time. You begin to understand that this encounter is not merely a passive observation event, but a resonance phenomenon capable of registering anomalous spikes in subterranean gravimetric sensors across our world. Why would a speculative space intelligence division lock a gravitational perturbation report under the same security clearance tier reserved for unclassified defense anomalies? You are forced to ask yourself, what kind of physical phenomenon possesses the capacity to disrupt delicate quantum detection arrays without releasing a single photon of measurable thermal radiation? The file reveals that a contingency directive was triggered to isolate raw data streams coming from atomic mass gravimeters located in deep subterranean installations during the flyby window. You confront an uncomfortable puzzle, because if the flyby was strictly a routine orbital passage with zero field anomalies, there would be no bureaucratic logic in classifying the calibration algorithms. The accepted narrative in academic geology textbooks suggests that gravitational tidal forces operate smoothly, predictably, and without any measurable impact on the electromagnetic architecture of Earth's crust. However, the unredacted sensor logs in file UAP NRO 55 challenge that baseline by recording high-frequency micro-oscillations projected to hit the atmosphere during the exact moment of closest approach. According to decrypted telemetry charts, the mass interaction will generate a magnetic deflection pulse at precisely 12 Hz, forcing ultra-sensitive particle detectors to register variations far outside standard statistical limits. You realize that the flyby of Apophis in 2029 will act as a natural stress test for the gravitational stability of our planet. Cross-referencing these orbital coordinates with historical archives from the speculative Echo 33 tracking program reveals that this exact body was recorded emitting structured radio resonance back in 1969. You discover that research observatories across multiple continents installed specialized radio arrays tuned to the precise tracking frequency of the asteroid. You are looking at a global monitoring framework built quietly over the last 4 decades under the public cover of routine planetary defense against physical space impacts. The documentation notes that heart rates and neurological baselines of high-altitude research teams registered subtle microrhythm shifts when exposed to simulated models of this specific gravitational pulse. At this exact second, your understanding of solar system mechanics undergoes a permanent shift, because the implications of the Apophis anomaly extend far beyond deep orbital space. You start to trace the domino effect of this research across advanced materials science, noticing how breakthroughs in room temperature superconductors directly align with dates these files were sealed. You are forced to consider the hypothesis that modern global positioning and navigation grids were calibrated around localized mass fluctuations that public science has yet to openly debate. The weight of this realization settles in as you understand that the vacuum surrounding our planet is not an empty void, but a dynamic and highly responsive physical medium. If you are following this forensic deep dive into classified archives and prohibited orbital mechanics, take a second to hit the subscribe button and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your active engagement is the sole mechanism that keeps this channel operational, allowing us to publish independent analysis on files and historical anomalies that challenge conventional science. Moving into the technical appendices of the report, the true scope of the 2029 flyby becomes even more unsettling, prompting the ultimate question that mainstream academics avoid. What if the trajectory of Apophis and its gravitational interaction are not an accidental cosmic coincidence, but part of an ancient orbital cycle mapped long before modern history began? You review the medical debriefings of teams operating advanced gravimetric arrays and notice that their neural baselines remain significantly altered weeks after simulation tests concluded. The entire scenario flips on its axis when you realize the 2029 observation window was designed to map deep density anomalies within Earth's core. The core lesson embedded in File UAP NRO 55 is the stark realization that human civilization exists upon a planetary crust maintained in delicate balance with massive cosmic forces. You now understand that our daily technology and civil infrastructure rely upon fundamental gravitational relationships operating in precise orbital harmony. When you look up at the night sky, you begin to see celestial mechanics through an entirely new lens, knowing that distant physical objects exert real operational influences on the ground beneath your feet. The final sentence recorded on the margin of the dossier remains completely unredacted, offering a lasting insight. Gravity is not merely a force of attraction, but an invisible framework connecting our world to the cosmos. You sit in total silence in your darkened room as your computer fan hums, absorbing the operational details of a theoretical containment protocol designated DOE-13. This emergency framework dictates that if localized gravitational shifts breach established tolerances during the flyby, global geodetic sensor arrays are programmed to recalibrate instantly. You trace the lineage of this protocol back to early space research committees formed in the mid-20th century, confirming that orbital planners always factored unmapped variables into their models. This proves that theoretical physicists treated the passage of Apophis as one of the most critical scientific events of our generation. The physical reality of what researchers expect to record becomes even more intriguing when you examine the spectral reflectivity scans attached to the end of the dossier. The diagnostic data indicates that Apophis possesses a highly irregular internal mass distribution that shifts its center of gravity in ways that challenge standard planetary formation models. You realize the document describes a celestial body that defies conventional textbook assumptions regarding primordial dust aggregation. The text notes that during maximum close approach, Earth's tidal stress will create microscopic structural fractures across the asteroid's surface, exposing its pristine interior material for the very first time. You begin to see that the true mystery of Apophis in 2029 is not the hypothetical threat of a direct surface impact, but the staggering volume of new physical data its flyby will reveal. The dossier outlines quantum radar imaging experiments calibrated to penetrate deep beneath the asteroid's outer crust while it passes through our satellite belt. This testing procedure will allow international teams to measure how exotic metallic alloys respond when submerged in Earth's dense gravitational field. You are standing before a historical narrative where cutting-edge scientific research and deep cosmic mysteries converge at a single point on the calendar. Consider the surgical precision required to coordinate every major radio telescope and optical array on Earth during the brief window when Apophis reaches its closest point. The report details how specialized frequency filters were constructed to isolate the asteroid's subtle gravitational resonance from the ambient electromagnetic noise generated by modern cities. This isolation protocol ensures that measurements of mass density and spatial curvature will be recorded with near-zero margins of error. You are observing a global scientific operation engineered decades in advance to capture an irrecoverable moment in orbital history. What happens to your view of the universe when you accept that subtle orbital perturbations can unlock entirely new laws of fundamental physics? The report concludes with advanced mathematical models estimating how the data gathered in 2029 will rewrite textbooks on astrodynamics for generations to come. It becomes clear that the intense focus surrounding Apophis is not rooted in sensationalism, but in the recognition of its priceless scientific value. The fundamental question that remains for you to consider is whether human civilization is ready to comprehend the deeper physical laws written into the motion of the stars. You close the encrypted document and shut down your terminal, reflecting on every orbital vector and telemetry calculation presented throughout this historical file. The physical analysis of Apophis demonstrates that our solar system is a deeply interconnected ecosystem where every planetary passage leaves measurable signatures on space-time. The Earth emerges not as an isolated rock floating in isolation, but as a dynamic participant in a vast cosmic network. As you step away from your desk and look out into the night, you carry a perspective that permanently alters how you view the universe. We are active witnesses to an unfolding cosmos,